Toogoolawa itself, it's an Aboriginal word which means a place in the heart. So what we're saying really is that our true nature is love, and if the teachers live that love, this automatically begins to bring out the love in the children.
What do we do here? It's really about the holistic development of the character of the student. So what I endeavour to do is try and integrate the values with everything that we do in Toogoolawa. We have to deliver Australian curriculum. So what we deliver is given to us, but we can integrate our values within that curriculum. Part of the curriculum that we do is we teach our students self-awareness. So in Toogoolawa, we use zones of regulation. So in zones of regulation, we teach the boys about when they check in, okay, what zone are you in? So they have a clear idea of the energy levels that they have. Okay, so if they're in blue zone, they're pretty slumpy and low energy. Red zone, very, very high energy. All zones are just human emotion. So we explicitly teach the boys about emotions, about energy levels. So when they check in and check out, we're trying to create more awareness, because the more aware you are, the more you're able to self-regulate. Giving students a tool of being self-aware is so empowering. It's like, oh, why am I thinking that way? They start to question their thoughts.
You know, teaching the values to the kids is really the secret elixir, and you can't teach the kids anything unless you're practicing it. I used to do the outdoor education with the kids, and I realised that it's nothing about what you say. It's 100% about what you do and your authenticity. And that was something that I had to learn, because teachers sometimes walk into a classroom and say, well, I'm the teacher, you need to listen to me. That's not going to work in our school.
I guess how we are different is really the expectation for our staff to be role models. And for me, the key is the relationships the students have with staff members. That relationship has to be based on love and understanding.
Well, there's a saying, they don't care what you know until they know you care. They don't care what you know, the teacher, until they know you care. It's not a one-way street where, you know, I've got it all and I'm giving it to them and they pick it up and run with it. It's nothing like that. It's about the quality of the relationships you've got with the kids. And that's a point about values education and quality teaching. Those two things fit together. The quality teaching is about the relationship you have with the child.
The focus in the school is to help these boys trust again, to trust the beauty and love that's within themselves and to trust that in others. So in order to do that, the teachers have to be of a special calibre. That's the great challenge. The teachers have to be able to be exemplars of peace and love and tolerance and understanding. So no matter what the boy does, the heart of the teacher remains open.
For us, when we employ anybody in Toogoolawa, the first question that we ask is, are you ready for transformation?
I've had a lot of different jobs in my life so far. I worked in Education Queensland in special ed for about 13 years. I didn't really quite fit the system because I think I came with a little bit too much heart. But then I kind of came here and I thought, yeah, I had a vision or an image of what I felt school should look like. So I came in going, there's something right about this because this is what I believe. It's got more of the heart than the head. It was a nice, mix, but that was really important to me. So for me, it feels very much like coming home.
I don't know, I tend to like to deal with the boys who, have a bit of trouble or they need a bit of guidance, need a mentor. I kind of tend to stick to those kids. And I don't know, I guess I've got natural tolerance and patience.
this is my purpose, this is my passion, this is like just helping people. It's a thankless job. Like, you don't come here for a pat on the back or a big paycheck, or you come here for the love of helping people. This school is so special. For the kids to come in and to be able to actually love the kid, and you know, you can see how much you help them.
With the teachers here, they respect you as an actual person. Like, they don't look down on you as like a student. Like, they don't look down on you at all. You can tell they want to see like the best of you. They want you to be the best person you can possibly be.
The staff are incredible people. They say they hold those 120 young men in unconditional positive regard. There's absolute acceptance of them as they are. And eventually the kids stop pushing back, because they're usually pushing back because they've got an axe to grind somewhere. They've got a chip on their shoulder about something. They've been in some way knocked around. Some of them physically, some of them emotionally.
At the end of the day, we all were struggling. Like, you think 22 boys in a classroom and they're all struggling with their own life problems. It gets out of hand sometimes, like, really. Non-violence goes out the window, trust goes out the window. But like, I feel like we'll throw all that stuff away and the teachers will just go over there and pick it up and like just put it back nicely without saying a word.
I think a lot of it is definitely natural, your natural personality, your natural how you cope with things. Like, a big motto of mine is don't let people drag you into their storm, you pull them into your peace.
I think if you love these kids, you make it work, and self-care is really, really important, and self-awareness. If you're having a rough day, you need to be able to really identify that and support yourself so that you can come here and do a good job.
My role at Toogoolawa is I'm Senior Wellbeing Officer, part of the Tibet team, which is our behaviour management team. So Tibet is an acronym that stands for Toogoolawa Intensive Behaviour Enhancement Team. So my role here is, it's one of support. So it is, I support the class, meaning the students, I support the staff, and the families if necessary. It's not an easy place to work. The burnout and fatigue is quite extreme. So yesterday during staff meeting, one of our beautiful staff mentioned she'd been kicked, spat at, punched, name calling, being on the rough end of somebody who's in pain, somebody who's angry, sometimes can be incredibly challenging. What's also difficult is the vicarious trauma. So the trauma of hearing someone else's story. So when we hear someone else's story and we take that on, we listen to that, sometimes that will play over and over in your mind. I remember when I first started here going home, and there'd be nights I couldn't sleep, and I'd wake up and my mind would be twisting and turning, and I'd be thinking about what I'd just heard through the day, and I just couldn't believe some of the stories. I couldn't believe that a young person or an adult or someone had those extreme experiences.
Over the 10 years I've seen some tough stuff. I'm quite good at not taking things home, but there's probably only been 2 things that like really rattled me. Like when one parent actually left their child here with child safety and walked off without them. So that really hurt, having to be there for that, and also being in a meeting when they're talking about your kids that are like being sexually abused and sexually abusing, and so there's definitely some tough stuff here. And every kid has tough stuff. Every kid that walks in that door, you wouldn't wish that life on your worst enemy.
I was very angry all the time. It's just real depressing all the time. So yeah, that's how I was before I came here.
I mostly went to Upper Cooma State College for most of my primary school, and then the small bit of secondary I did. I ended up having to leave that school because I ended up getting bullied really bad, and anywhere I kind of went in there, I kind of got death threats and kind of physically assaulted, and I was like, yeah, no more of that. wasn't really the environment I wanted to, and then dropped out for a little bit of grade 7 and then re-enrolled back here around term 3.
Not all of them, all the boys have been abused in the sense that we might think of that word, but you could say abused by society.
By system, yeah.
By the system of education we have, where you have a school that's got 1,500 kids and you've got a very sensitive boy who, say, is bullied and can't concentrate, and so he acts out and gets sent up the back of the class and falls behind 3 years in a row and becomes a class dummy. He's angry. You know? And it's not that the parents with him have done anything wrong, it's just the system.
I went to one other school. It didn't really fit for me. They didn't really have the things to help me. They didn't know how to help me. They were focused on the education, not on the behaviour. I used to run out of class a lot. I got in a few fights. All that kind of stuff, just over and over. There was a few reasons I didn't like staying in class, just because I didn't really have any friends at all. And I was also trying to face other issues coming from home. And I didn't really like the teachers who were there. They just didn't help me at all. They didn't know how to help me.
I actually got bullied by one of the teachers. It was basically bullying because she just picked on every flaw that I had, acknowledged any of the other kids' flaws, just mine. That made me feel really, really bad. It made me not want to come to school anymore. I was refusing to my parents and I was starting to get my behaviour get worse and worse because I didn't have any teachers to help me or any of that.
I think when I interview the students, the one thing that I keep hearing from them is they don't feel that they have been heard.
In the time I was there, I watched them lose their heart more in education. You know, there were some brilliant teachers and some brilliant, workers there, but things became so outcome driven. You know, it was about results and kids were going, this system they don't care about me.
And the other thing is because they don't feel heard and they don't feel seen for who they uniquely are, they kind of put up these barriers and these barriers always somehow or other impede them from learning.
I think to be able to learn, you've got to be in the right mind frame. So if you're not in the right state of mind, a lot of these boys are coming from different backgrounds, have a whole range of different issues. So I think you have to get that right first.
Now, those two things are learning and teaching. The learning's the important part. The good teacher sets up possible learning. And I used to get myself into trouble as a young teacher because that wasn't the way to do it. What are you doing with that yo-yo in that room? Why are you demonstrating yo-yo to them? I'm trying to get them on side before we start. It's going to take a few weeks of yo-yo before we get anywhere with these kids.
These kids are not going to walk in and sit down and want to do maths, especially the bad experiences they've had from other schools. The first thing we do is build relationships. You're not going to get anything out of these kids until you actually have that relationships of trust with them, for them to even trust you enough to walk in the classroom.
When I first came to this school, I didn't feel safe. I didn't feel happy. I never liked doing work. But then once they actually got me to come inside, they showed me easier ways. They taught me things that I probably wouldn't have learnt in mainstream.
They teach you more about life than algebra. If I kept on going to mainstream school, yeah, I might have known math and English and that, but I wouldn't know how to speak to another person or control my anxiety or they just did so much for you, I don't know, hang on. For an example, I was horrible with math and I was in grade 9 when I come here. Like, I was supposed to be in grade 9, but I was still doing grade 6 math level. And they never made me feel like stupid or like...
You didn't feel different to anyone?
You didn't feel any different. Like, no, not even your classmates would judge you. Like, you worked at your level and you see how good you could get. Like, you don't feel embarrassed for the things that you're usually insecure about. You're not insecure about here. Yeah. You feel safe and welcome.
At the end of the day, it's all about relationships. Mainstream education has allowed itself to become captured by numbers, performance, competition one to the other, levels. It's not holistic. It doesn't grow the full person.
We don't know that current education system prepares students entirely for life. They live out a big chunk because of the constraints they're held by. So it was really valuable for me coming in and seeing there was another way, and it really was heart-centred. And that's the bit that felt like it was missing, not just in education, but in the world.
Now, having done it for 20, 25 years, we're a great testing ground for what does work for kids who, and I can, there's so many stories of kids that have not been at mainstream school or will not go to mainstream school, or the mainstream school says, we cannot have this kid at all. And then that kid thrives with us.
So the school now has a reputation. Initially we had to go around all the schools and say, look, if you've got any boys you can't handle, send them to us. But now, because those referring schools see the results that come, then the counsellor or the welfare agent in that person in that school, they know, Toogoolawa.
What I'm doing right now is working with 3 colleagues on a study of how effective the program at Toogoolawa School is for those young men that find themselves in that school.
I had a parent come to me and she said, thank you so much for accepting my son. My son feels like he belongs. How wonderful.
I don't look at people and go like, oh, my school was better than yours, but like, I look at some people and I'm like, you could have really used Toogoolawa. You get some of the younger kids coming in here, I love it. I love seeing like littler kids coming in here because I think they're going to be at this school for 5 years, for 6 years. That's twice the time I was here. Like, they turn you into men. They make you grow up.
Yeah. Even without trying to convert them into any way of thinking, you just have to be the message. And that automatically affects their brain. Their brain changes.
Yeah. So the spirituality what we're talking here about is the neuroscience is connected so very closely. It's not just we're talking about, love, you can feel good, but it has been a proof that by being in that state, by experiencing that state, something changing in the brain.
Like, I definitely benefited from learning that information from the staff. And as well as the staff, the learning part of it as well. Just kind of always having that helping hand around the classroom when you needed it was also a very big thing for not just me, but a lot of other kids that needed it.
I definitely do not regret my decision going to school. Like, it helped me a lot. How much more peaceful life is, like, without being angry all the time and, like, stuck up. And it's so much easier to just sit down with someone and be nice than to sit down with someone and argue. It's just a given fact.
Why wouldn't we put our hand over our heart and say, I wish that people were so nice to each other that we didn't have a drug problem, that we didn't have a youth suicide problem.
It's a difficult message to get across because, in effect, what you're saying is, look, the way you live your life is not good enough. You have to become a better person. I mean, who wants to hear that, So it's really have to do it by example, such that our aim is for the school to become such an inspiring witness to human values education that other educators will say, yes, let's look into that, let's do that.
So values-based education it's a philosophy. The values of the school, they drive everything that goes on in the school. Everything. You don't make a decision without thinking about those 5 values.
You know, it's like a pebble in a pond, hopefully. You know, that pebble drops and the ripples go out. So if one person, a young person makes a change, we've heard of families that then the parents make changes. And then, you know, if he's reacting differently in his friendship circle, you know, that maybe they're walking away from things that they might be heading down a path and they learn that, well, maybe that's not where I want to go.
We have a saying, the end of education is character. So basically, we really want our students to be happy. A happy human being who is sincere and has integrity and who cares about others.
I think Ron and Sawante have got this absolutely correct. I think we come into this world as diamonds, and along the way we pick up all sorts of stuff, and gradually we lose the real person in here. We need to prevent that loss.
There's a lot of smart people in the world, but they might not use it to help other people, and I think that, yeah, values-based education can change your life and everyone else's life.
I do wish there was definitely a lot more schools like this, because it does help kids my age get more mature and more peaceful.
It's just an amazing school. It did a lot for me and Nathan, and I know that. It just helped me be a better person. Nothing could take me back to the person I was, ever, ever, ever. Like, not in a million years. I will never, ever be that person again because of this school.
So that's my hope, that everybody that's had a little piece of Toogoolawa takes that into their life and become the next best version of themselves, and that it continues, and all the, as you said, the trees and the seeds, you know, that it just keeps going and going.
We have a long-term plan of 50 schools like Toogoolawa in Australia, in every state.
When you see people like Ron and Sawante trying to do stuff that I tried to do as a young man with kids in the northern suburbs of Melbourne, and you know, I just know how hard that is, and to see how good they are at it, it's just fantastic.
In terms of whether we'd like to see this philosophy brought into other schools, definitely.
Yes.
Because our society needs to change. Everybody's good at heart, but in this materialistic world, we can get caught up in greed and not considering the other person, and we end up with serious problems. The world is in serious problems. It's really difficult, and only education can change that.
And what kind of education can change is education with the heart.